The year 2020 witnessed the occurrence of one of the most disastrous disasters in the annals of humankind's past. That brought about a permanent shift in the way that males and females related to one another, which led to the end of courtship and marriage as we knew them. This barrage of events was made possible by a widespread and extensive scam epidemic that was responsible for the destruction of families, lives, careers, and the economy. Women, who made up the majority of the labor force prior to the pandemic, were among those who were hit the worst. However, if they avoided coughing, they had a 99% chance of recovering from the illness. They were fired from their employment and are now attempting to patch together the remaining aspects of their lives. This resulted in a dramatic shift in dating practices, which in turn led society further and further away from traditionalism and more toward openly immoral behavior on a scale that had never been witnessed before. If you believe that the culture of hookups was the lowest form of depravity to which Americans could stoop, you are in for an unpleasant awakening. Hookup culture is not the lowest form of depravity to which Americans may stoop. Since money was scarce and people's level of hopelessness was at an all-time high, many desperate women turned to the oldest profession that men have ever known, selling oneself for a small sum. We saw the growth of OnlyFans, cam girls, Instafots, and TikToks selling a wet vice grip on the street corners, as well as the rise of the spoil me culture, or what I call the sugar daddy-ism sites like Seeking Arrangements. The topic of today's video is a place where wealthy men, also known as the sugar daddies, and women who want to be spoiled or are desperate, also known as the sugar babies, meet up and engage in a new form of dating, which is prostitution. This meeting is known as a sugar hookup, and it is the focus of today's video. I realize that this is something that none of you want to hear, but transactional relationships are the way of the future for a variety of reasons. The primary reason for this is that women need assistance in order to make it through each month, particularly given the state of the economy currently and how it will continue to be in the near future. But why is that actually the case when it wasn't nearly as common in the past? As a matter of fact, women put an end to marriage and other long-term relationships, which was advantageous for them in the long run, particularly during difficult economic times. Guess what they decided to do now that they don't have the protection that men provide and the government can only assist them to a certain extent? They came to the conclusion that the men who had money should be contacted and given access to the one thing of worth that they possessed. Because men have forgotten that 9 years ago, they had to climb trees with binoculars in order to see a woman who was either partially or completely naked in order to have an image of a woman to lust after. Men do not realize how significant this is. Here's the deal. Men do not realize how significant this is. There were no scantily clad women flashing their ample assets in public or appearing on a screen to tease male customers every day. There was no culture of men engaging in sexual activity casually known as hooking up, and there was certainly no fall in sexual activity like the one we are observing now. Therefore, you need to have an understanding that the times have substantially altered, and as a result, obtaining some moist vice grip is currently the least difficult it has ever been throughout the course of human history. It is now so simple that, similar to an Amazon box, you can have it delivered to your doorstep in whatever form, color, or size that you choose. You can set up an arrangement. You can get it in the chocolate, caramel, or vanilla type with only the tap of a finger, gentlemen, regardless of which flavor you choose. You'll not need to go into the wild or run the game in order to obtain as many wet vice grips as you desire. You don't need to go out of your way and waste money on outfits that are trendy to the point of death just so you can bring entitled women out on dates. You will no longer have to wait 3 months to obtain some stank as Chad and Tyrone beat up her sugary walls rosy in the hopes that she will eventually give you a small portion of what she has. Stop talking such nonsense, you guys. You will be able to avoid all of that and get directly to the route that will bring you what you want in the quickest possible manner by simply continuing to spend the same amount as you have in the past. The one and only difference is that she receives the money in full as opposed to you squandering it on fancy dinners and other attempts to win her favor. Loved by dudes, especially video game designers and shattered ninjas. It is a way to give the impression that there is anything unethical about paying women to acquire what you want. If you don't receive it for free in their view, you either didn't get her soul or you aren't a real guy. Either one of those things is unacceptable. Mr. Broken Ninja, you asked if I wanted her soul, didn't you hear me? Did I not just mention that I wanted to be a real man, Mr. Game Artist? You know what? I don't want to waste time playing coochie games. I just want her legs to be on my shoulder. That's exactly what I want, and I'm willing to guess that the majority of men who are on the fence about whether or not to engage in pay-for-play do so because they're sick of the BS that modern women put up with. Many of these men have the hope that they will be able to get a woman to lie in their beds, and you know what? I don't see affluent men having a problem paying to get some wet vice grip. Some of these men just want to bust a nasty nut and move on with life without having to waste their time. They are mostly impoverished individuals and game artists who sell hopium, and they object to the practice of males paying for bedroom fun on the grounds that it disrupts their business. When it comes to dating, keeping up with the times means you can't afford to be moral or cling to traditional values. Even women don't have trouble selling a piece, so put things in the appropriate perspective and realize that you can't afford to be moral or adhere to traditional values. Since we can all agree that modern women no longer adhere to traditional roles, it begs the question, why would any sane guy still attempt to act conventionally and engage in behavior that has been shown to be unsuccessful for the majority of men? There are a lot of guys out there who aren't getting any stank because of the hookup culture that existed before and because women choose only the best men on dating apps. These guys can start getting the peace sleeve if they give up their morals and make a little bit of money. It would only take between $200 and $500 for incels, virgins, weirdos, low-value men, broke ninjas, men on their grind, men on their purpose, men who went on their own road, free agents, and even the game artist get some wet vice grip. You are able to achieve your goals. Permit me to pose this question to you because I am aware that the morality police are angry. Is how much money does it take to take a woman out on a luxury date where you eat steak or whatever other costly cuisine there is only to wow her without the certainty that you will win the vice grip? Therefore, guys might easily spend upwards of if they go on 3 dates with the same woman. And even now, to this day, they haven't seen or smelled that moist vice grip, much less tasted it. Nonetheless, you were advising me that assisting a young woman who was just 18 years old to buy her first car was a bad idea. Using that line of reasoning, you have earned every bit of sophistication that comes your way. When random women start using you as a foodie call and ghosting your goofy butt, I won't feel sorry for you because it will be your fault, sir. I won't feel sorry for you. Men of means do not have the time to be constantly wandering about and randomly approaching ladies on the street or in public places. The majority of the males who were wrongfully accused were in the clubs and pubs trying to have sexual encounters with Norwegian women for free, which would work against them. You simply cannot allow yourself to be taken advantage of by leeches if you value your reputation and your financial standing. Therefore, it would make perfect sense to simply rush up to an unknown person and spit on her in the hopes of convincing her to lie down on her back. The wealthy men will pay professionals or women to sell peace leave on the side, thereby lowering the likelihood that they will wind up in court as a result of a sexual assault claim or a false complaint, because it would cost them more money to settle the matter or fight it in court than it would have cost them to simply pay the money up front, get what they wanted, and move on with their lives. This has been the case for a very considerable period of time. Having said that, I'm not trying to make it sound like there aren't any dangers associated with living a lifestyle like this. You have to take these kinds of precautions in order to safeguard your health, your finances, and your life, yet working with women in any capacity comes with inherent dangers. If things continue as they are, you will end up in the best possible situation. You may pick how you pay for women, and I prefer to pay them up front rather than at the end of the day if you choose to deal with them. However, all men pay for women at the end of the day if you choose to deal with them. Consider the amount of money that married men had to spend for their divorce and child support as a direct result of the fact that they wanted peace leave to be provided at no cost to them. Take a look at how much guys have to spend to clear their names after being falsely accused. Consider the sum of money that men are expected to contribute toward the cost of a wedding, and then consider the sum of money that men are expected to contribute toward the cost of a house. He spends his own money to go on dinner dates with women, with the goal of impressing them so that they will have sex with him after the meal even though they are under no obligation to do so. Gentlemen, if you do business with women, you will inevitably cost all of us money in some form or another. If you are living in monk mode or if you have checked out of relationships, then maybe you don't pay, but if you are out here paying for women's lonely fan subscription, I buy girls bathwater and boob sweat, then you pay period point blank, and I don't want to hear the BS. If you're out here paying for women's lonely fan subscription, I buy girls bathwater and boob sweat, then you pay period point blank, and I don't want to at the end of the day. I am not going to instruct any of you to carry out any actions. It is up to you to decide. I'm merely here to report on the new type of dating that's taking place in front of our very eyes in the shape of transactional relationships. Women on the CC are coming to the realization that they might as well start charging dudes to have access to their bodies and get something out of it rather than getting nothing out of it. This is because they are currently not getting anything out of it. One type of dating app that makes sugar daddy relationships and other transactional pairings easier to find and maintain is called seeking arrangements. You are completely mistaken if you believe that this will be resolved anytime in the near future. The secret is out now, and it is your future wives who engage in the business of providing sex services to older men in exchange for financial compensation. It makes me sad to think about the guys who will marry these women after learning that they were sold as peace leave in order to make ends meet. Even ladies who are pregnant and males who are looking for sugar daddies are currently on the run with their girlfriends. So, what should you do if you are interested in seeking arrangements or if you simply have a desire in learning more about it? First things first, make sure that your profile is completely filled out and that you actually put some effort into it. Due to the high cost of membership, you should avoid making any purchases if you are unsure of whether or not you intend to pursue this endeavor seriously. Make sure you read the person's bio very carefully to see whether or not the woman is looking for a relationship or arrangement, and then direct message DM the girls with whom you can communicate for free and see where things go from there. They will occasionally send you a message and make an effort to schedule a meeting with you. It is possible that you will not be required to pay for the membership. Don't be cheap with your money and disrespect these ladies by acting like they don't matter. Just make sure you are aware of what you are getting yourself into and that you are direct and honest about what it is that you want and how much you are ready to pay for it. If the conversation has progressed to this point, there are some things you should take to protect yourself because you can never be sure who is who. On some websites, you shouldn't identify your government agency by name. You can maintain some measure of anonymity by using your middle name in place of your first name. Don't invite the girl over to your place right away, especially if this is your first time hanging out with. Tell her to meet you nearby so that you may drive her back to your place when you finish what she's doing. This is done so that you can be confident she won't arrive with other people to rob you. Tell her that once she arrives at your house, she should leave her handbag and phone outside of the bedroom, and you should double-check that her phone is turned off. Be on your watch at all times because it has been documented that some women will drug men or even set them up to be robbed. Provide food for her to eat and let her know your rules in terms of payment, whether you'll record the session voice record or sign a contract like an ENDA to let her know ahead of time when it's time to clap cheeks. Wear a rubber to protect yourself from getting smacked in the face and provide food for her to eat. Because you never know who you're fooling with, you need to exercise caution. When the encounter is complete, pay her the money and don't become huffy over the amount that was agreed upon. Do not make any attempt to pick the girl's pocket. It is not in my best interest for you to provide permission to this individual to stay the night at your residence. If you want to take an extra precaution for her safety, you should offer to carry her back to her house or to her Uber and make sure that she arrives there unharmed. Get a confirmation via text that she came home safely in her bedroom and that she appreciated the encounter, and at that point you can consider the transaction closed. Make use of your common sense, safeguard yourself as much as possible, and don't let anything ruin your fun. It is what it is if actively seeking out or paying for play is not something that appeals to you. Don't whine that these women are finishing you off and that you're not getting what you want because you should be grateful for it. And here's a free red pill for all of you guys who don't want to pay the women on the sites. She wants the woman who refuses to pay you to be the one you've been approaching in a cold approach at Starbucks in the mornings and running games with. When you're attempting to grab her number, she'll often start spilling the beans about her sugar daddy kids and her draws just as you start spitting game. This happens a lot of the time. Therefore, retain that picture in your head for the next time you are in charge of a game. Are there no guys involved in this? No, but a sufficient number of them are, and more of them sign up every day with the intention of being pampered. Gentlemen, the world in which we live is a harsh place. Either you change with the times or you fall behind. It is up to you to decide.